Hi, this is Phil DeBella, and you're listening to another episode of Been There, Done That, where we bring experts in their field, in their industry, so that they can share their knowledge and help you accelerate your potential. And today on the Been There and Done That, I've got something a little bit different that we want to talk about, something that was high news and then it's fallen asleep a little bit, but no doubt in future is going to be news again. And we want to bring an expert to the table to discuss it. And it's all about sustainability in a cafe. So welcome to the show, Michael McFarlane, who's the head of sales of marketing at Huskee. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Phil. Nice for the invite. Nice to be on the show.
Oh, it's great. Look, there's a lot of people out there that proclaim to be experts in what they're doing, and you've been working with Shari here at the commune, and we thought you'd be the perfect person to talk about all things sustainable in the cafe and, demystify it. But let's give the listeners a bit of a background. Michael's an experienced retail sales and marketing manager, driven by positivity, impacting our world through innovation, especially in the coffee sector. He's got over 14 years of hospitality experiences, including being the head of retail for a specialty coffee roaster who had multiple sites in the UK. And now in his most recent positions, he's helped scale an Australian startup to global significance in both product sales and reuse system adoption. He's got a genuine passion for coffee culture and community and encompassing product quality, design, innovation. So we couldn't think of anyone better than Michael to come and talk to our listeners about sustainability in cafes. So Michael, again, welcome to the show. Let's kick it off straight up. What does not to you as an expert, but to the average person, when they hear sustainability in a cafe, what should they be thinking?
I think most cafe owners would think of BYO and reusable cups. That's probably the easiest one, and it's probably the most passive way that you can introduce, sustainable behaviors into your cafe to promoting reusables over single use. But there is a lot that can be done. I think the coffee industry is still recovering from COVID as well. I think the whole BYO cup really took a hit. People concerned around hygiene and this strange catch-22 of customers might want to bring their BYO cup, but do cafes accept them? Cafes not wanting to promote BYO in case that was deemed insensitive or consumers don't want it. So there's a little bit of catching up to do. I think a lot of recovery has happened, but look, there's a heap of things to do that a cafe could implement, from their menu creation, from their selection of suppliers, how they source their energy. I mean, how long's this podcast? We could probably deep dive into a few of these things.
Yeah, well, let's bring it down to some key ones, right? So obviously you're, in a cafe, some of the major stuff you've got, let's start with your products. So
Sure.
Your cups, your packaging. What are the options there that, and especially with you guys at Huskee do some great work. What are some areas there that people should be looking at in terms of their product and with sustainability through your product usage, which is an ingredient, so to speak, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, so Huskee as a reusable cup manufacturer is a great place to start. BYO is still a great option. We have a range of products. There are coffee cups that feature different materials, so there's some material choice. I think reinvigorating your retail shelf, making sure that looks great. You've got a selection of products. I think material choice is a particularly good one to consider nowadays. People have a material preference when it comes to their reusable cup, whether it be plastic, whether it be stainless steel. What's the lid configuration? Is it spill proof? Is it a button? Does it want to turn into a bottle or a water bottle? So I think giving users that consumers rather a choice, I think is really important. The retail shelf doesn't need to be just this passive thing that you forget about. I think taking pride in that retail shelf and promoting reuse is a great step. And then the next steps beyond that would be to promote reusables in your shop. As I said, there seems to be this catch-22 of, is it acceptable? Have signage, promote reuse on your socials. It's not, just making consumers welcome to bring their cup, and you will find that people will bring it in. I mean, not least, you've got the reduction of waste, but it's just a superior drinking experience. Drinking out of a reusable cup is just nicer.
Well, it's an opportunity to personalize your experience, right? I'm a big fan of reuse because not only is it sustainable by practice, it's also giving the customer the ability to choose. Some people like favorite pen. Some people have a favorite pen. Some people, have a favorite cup. So, look,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. And you made some really good points there, especially around materials. What are some of the misconceptions? Because there's a lot of people out there pushing sustainability that actually aren't sustainable, right? So, what are the things
Sure.
that listeners should be listening out for when coming to choose, which reusable cup should I be going down the path of? What are some of the watch out fors?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing to say is any material choice beyond single use is going to be an improvement. Reusable cups are more durable and they're made to last. And so there's lots of benefits, including health benefits of using a reusable cup, regardless of the material. So you're already winning with a reusable cup. A material comes down to preference and your drink beverage. For example, I drink filter coffee and I find stainless steel just keeps my coffee too hot for too long. Like I want it to cool down and I want to drink it.
Yeah.
That's my preference. So I think that's a consideration. I think the lid and the way you drink is probably the most important thing because that's the most tactile experience for the consumer. It's where their mouth touches the cup. Similar to I'm into cycling. I was told once the most important parts are the handles and the seat because they're the bits you actually touch. Similar kind of thing. So I think you need to be able to embrace what you like. You don't need to be driven by trends. A saying across a lot of reusable cup manufacturers is the best reusable cup is the one you already have.
Yeah.
So it's often about using your reusable cup. There's no point just having it at the back of the cupboard and forgotten about. There is an embodied energy to make that product. It's really only worth its while if it's used. So in the first instance, I would encourage you to use what you have. And then, down to your drinking preference and the style of coffee you drink.
Okay, so let's break it down technically now. Size of cup, because obviously you saw this big shift away, the traditional coffee, and I've been around the coffee industry for 35 years. Way back when I was 14, it was traditionally 8 ounce and 12 ounce. And in the last 5 to 8 years, you've seen this move away that it actually should be, which makes sense, 6 ounce and 12 ounce. So what should we be looking at in terms of volume too when it comes to your reusable cup? Because every cafe is different. Every cafe is going to charge you different. Does it need one shot, 2 shots, or 3 shots? If your reusable cup looks like a bucket, you're going to be charged more, and it's obviously got to be made. So let's explore that and unpack that around the concept of size of reusable cup.
Yeah, interesting. So we have 6 ounce, 8 ounce, 12 ounce, and 16 ounce cups. The larger sizes are more for our American customers because as a company we go to market in Australia, the UK, and the US. So there's some market differences there. Our top seller is still the 8 ounce and the 12 ounce. Probably 12 ounce, maybe slightly more if you bring in our kind of international sales, but that's very much the predominant size. You do see some cafes offering a 10 ounce size as well. So it can be hard to get it right. Look, 8 ounce is what we refer to as a kind of a medium size. And I see the 8 ounce and 12 ounce as the predominant size is in cafes. I think if you're going to a regular cafe as well, into your regular cafe, they'll probably get used to your cup as well and know where to fill it. How to navigate, is it a single shot or a double shot? That's just a problem we all have to embrace when we try different cafes, Sometimes I often expect my flat white to be a double shot because that's how I'm used to making flat whites. That's the kind of coffee culture in the UK. And over here in Australia, it's a single shot and it tastes a lot weaker. So look, it's hard to get that right.
And it comes down to
just getting the right cafe.
Well, there's the opportunity for the cafe, right? I can't stand walking into a cafe and they're robots. The baristas are robots. They're not engaging with their customer.
Yeah.
I mean, the reusable cup gives you another level another reason to actually engage with the customer in terms of, do you want 1 shot? Do you want 2 shots? How do you like your coffee? And get to know your customer better, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay, now the next one. So correct me if I'm wrong, they've lifted the laws off the reusable cup, obviously post-COVID, because our stupid government liked to put in some laws that made absolutely no sense at the time of COVID, and reusable cups for some reason was one of them. So that law is now dead and buried and gone. You can bring your reusable cup into a cafe, am I right?
Yeah. It was only Queensland who had some stricter guidelines, but yeah, it was a bit of a crazy time. Seeing single-use cups being used as dine-in cups was really heartbreaking to see. Mid COVID, just seeing the amount of single-use waste, and I think that's the silver lining for COVID and the kind of reuse and sustainability movement is that a lot of cafe owners saw how much waste they were generating. Arguably, it wasn't their choice. There was some restrictions there, but I'm sure if you went back to that period and you look at your invoices and see how much you spent on single-use packaging, it would have been a definite spike. And the bins would have filled up quicker.
Yeah, you make some good points. So there's no one's arguing. It's great for the environment, great for the space, great for the cost. So let's unpack the cost side. Because there's been an ongoing thing, and we might actually run a poll on this on our new community app at Coffee Commune. We've got our community app Connect there. Should cafes be charging less if you bring in your own cup?
Ooh, contentious. It's a hard one, right? It's an industry standard. Consumers expect it. So I think when you go against that, then you're opening yourself up to complaints or a bit of pushback and customers being unhappy. Completely acknowledge that. I don't think cafes should be subsidizing coffee costs to promote sustainable behaviors of the consumer.
Good
It's
point,
up to the consumer. They should carry that. So I don't think that you should offer a reusable discount, but look, that's not a hard and fast rule because cafe owners have lots of things to navigate and they need to please their customers and, whatever. But it's a difficult one for cafes who have slim margins to have to discount their product because at the end of the day, the 50 cents that gets often discounted is way more than the cost of a single-use cup. So they're really taking a hit there. There are other ways to do it, right? If you promote reuse, whether it be BYO or a reuse system, every time someone uses that, they're not using a single-use cup. So that is a cost saving to you. There are workflow efficiencies, especially with reuse services. BYO is great, but at scale, it doesn't work, which is why we've developed reuse programs. If you were to imagine for a second, you've got 20 customers in the line and they've all got their own reusable cup, different shapes, sizes, lid configurations, and various states of hygiene, it won't work. Well, the average cafe does about 200 takeaway coffees a day. Can you imagine every single one of those as a bring your own reusable cup model? It just doesn't work at scale. So I think if cafes start to investigate and look out what kind of reuse programs are out there, there's HuskeeSwap. We've got a new one coming later this year, and there are a few other programs out there. There are workflow efficiencies. It's more hygienic. So there's a lot of cost savings. Yeah. And also the waste stream.
Well, that's right. But great segue. So talk a bit more about Huskee. Tell us what Huskee does, what problem it solves. So specifically what problem it solves and what makes it more relevant than anyone else in the marketplace in terms of reuse cup.
Have you frozen, Phil? You're back. Sorry, you froze for a second there. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. So it's good. Lucky we're not going live, right? And the producer can cut it out. So that's a good segue into Huskee itself. Tell us a bit about what problem Huskee solves and what makes it more relevant than the other reuse systems out there. And especially for give us the dummies guide, because a lot of listeners will be listening to this going, what's actually reuse? What do you mean that?
Yeah,
it is a terminology. It is a program. It is a system. Huskee leads the way in it. Tell us a bit about it. And so the customers, the cafe people listening go, well, hang on, that's something I want to explore further.
Yeah, sure. You've got two options, really. You've got refill and you've got reuse.
Michael's
refill is when you as the consumer, you own the vessel, whether it be a reusable cup or a water bottle, and you take it to a water fountain or a cafe and it gets refilled. That's how kind of BYO model works. Reuse is when there's more of a system in place. There are various types of systems and it's managed in different ways. Our program is called HuskeeSwap, and it was designed because of what I just mentioned around BYO doesn't scale. It's just not an option at scale. So how HuskeeSwap works is cafes purchase cups from us. They purchase cups which go on their retail shelf, and they purchase cups which they unpack, wash, and keep on top of their espresso machine alongside their single-use cups. Consumers then buy a cup from the cafe, or they might already have one. Huskee cups are available at 10% of cafes around Australia, so they're widely available. You come in with your Huskee cup, you hand it over when you order. The cafe puts that cup aside and makes your coffee in one of their pre-washed, sanitized cups. So the advantage of that for the consumer is that they don't have to wash their cup. So when it comes to their second, third, fourth coffee in the day, it doesn't matter. They can bring it back dirty. They give it to the cafe. It's washed. It's also perfectly integrates with order ahead. When you order ahead with a reusable, the cafe has to wait for you to bring the cup back. Whereas with HuskeeSwap, the cups are already there waiting to go. So it's a great implementation with reuse. For the cafe, it means that they don't have to wash cups on the spot. I know that's probably less common now with COVID. It's a bit more of a hard line to say that's dirty, I'm not washing it, but it's still an advantage. Cups come in, they get put aside, they get washed later at a more convenient time when there's a lull in trade. And then these cups that are being washed and handed down to the barista, they've been sanitized by the cafe on the premises. They haven't been washed and brought in by the consumer, which could have been in a dishwasher, could have just been hand washed, goes in someone's car, goes in someone's bag, brings it into your cafe. There is a cross-contamination issue there. So HuskeeSwap makes it more convenient for the consumer, better workflow for the cafe, and it's much more hygienic. And because you need a Huskee cup to participate, it's driving revenue for the cafe because the consumer needs to buy a cup to be able to enter. No subscription fees. There is an app, but it's completely optional. So you can just walk into a cafe with a cup and swap. So it's low tech. Ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of cafes.
Yeah, no, you've explained it well. And of course, our producer will put up the details for Huskee. You want to explore this model further. It is growing. It is quite a new concept, but it is growing, and obviously not just here, all over the world. What would you say, what country does sustainability really well?
Oh, there are lots of places around the world that are much more progressive with single-use bans.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that is on the horizon for Australia, and I think that's a good point to raise and a good thing for cafes to start thinking about. Bans are coming. Single-use plastic line cups will be banned statewide, every state, nationwide. There will be some decisions that cafes will need to make. It is to fully embrace compostable cups, which do come at a higher cost, or now start thinking about reuse options and reuse systems and start to implement. That's not to say that 100% of your customers are going to transition to reuse overnight, but if you've got 10%, 20%, 30% that are engaging in reuse, you as a business get used to the workflow, your staff get used to it. It means that it can scale organically, and then you'll get to the point where, hopefully we're not going to have any single use.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's explore the opportunity to use something like Huskee to gain more customers. So when you're working with clients that take up Huskee, talk us through the strategy as a marketing expert on how, what's the pitch to them? How can they build a bigger client base by being part of the Huskee program?
I lost you again, Phil. Could you repeat that question?
So using Huskee, how can they actually build a bigger client base? How can they attract more people through their door to increase their revenue by being part of a program like Huskee?
Yeah, right. So I think the conscious consumer as a demographic is rising. People are much more aware of sustainability initiatives and solutions, and are actively looking for those kind of solutions to improve their day. There is such a thing as a behavioral gap where people may hold certain opinions about things and have some principles in place, but that doesn't always translate to action. So, for example, if you ask most people, do you think single-use plastic waste is bad? And do you think plastics in our oceans is bad? Most people will say yes. If you then follow that up with, do you use single-use products and exclusively use a reusable? No. So that's a thing. It's a behavioral attitude gap. I think we need to address that. And I think cafes can help to do that by promoting reuse, like with the BYO or the reuse system. And I think that will naturally start to attract those conscious consumers who are looking for ways to kind of do what they can. It can be a big question, like what can I do to improve my sustainability outcomes? Do I use a FOGO bin? Should I be recycling better? But it's a difficult space. Recycling, as an example, is very, very hard. How many of us are stuck at the bin going, is this soft plastic? Is it not soft plastic? Is this going in this bin or not? It's hard to navigate. So I think making small and simple choices is probably the best way forward. And if you're looking for a coffee and you can see a cafe that has some great initiatives that is promoting reuse, that makes that decision a little bit easier for them. They can have their coffee and they can feel good about it afterwards. It's also long-term, sustainable growth for the cafe to go, look, this is a better outcome for me as a cafe and a business. I'm going to reduce my costs. I'm going to reduce my waste, which is going to be a better outcome for the business.
Yeah, look, it's you make a good point, because I mean we should all be looking at solar options, and of course, but your customers don't see solar. We for us, we've been sustainable for years. We've had solar on the roof. We've used recycled cardboard for our packaging of boxes. The same with our coffee packaging. We have options for people to come and bring their tins back in to package their coffee into. This is beans, of course. So my key takeaway for people is sustainability needs to be part of a lifestyle and part of a culture rather than a strategy. And I'd love your thoughts on that in a second. But to us, we say sustainability is a way of life. Sustainability is cultural and not strategic. What's your thoughts on that?
I think with policymakers, it needs to be strategic to be able to become culture. And these things we need people and businesses and government to have a think about, what are the ways that we can implement this and try and experiment, and don't be afraid to fail. I think you've got to try lots of different ways and see what works. Not too long ago, there wouldn't have been a recycling bin, but recycling bin is now everywhere. There was a time when people didn't bring around a reusable bag or a reusable water bottle. Our behaviors have changed, but that hasn't just happened overnight because someone said, you know what, I want to carry a water bottle around. It's through that kind of wider education piece and highlighting the issue. The solution to the issue can sometimes be complex. And back to the cafe, I think is about, don't be afraid to try some things. I mean, every cafe is unique. Every cafe's demographic is unique. Just start small, start somewhere, and see what works for you. See what resonates with your customers and what achieves the outcomes you're looking for. And also on cafe, just to highlight, I think is a funny one, because single-use cups obviously is the poster boy for waste, because you see them everywhere. But of course, the biggest waste in a cafe is the power to run the coffee machine. That is the biggest carbon footprint of a cafe, is the energy and the power. But no one sees that because that's just something that the cafe owner pays for. But back to your point, solar would be a great option.
Yeah, now you've covered it nicely, and it's a great way to sort of bring it to a close. So give us your top 3 tips for people listening. What should they be doing to say that they are sustainable, more sustainable tomorrow than today?
Sure. Promote reuse and reusables. Really merchandise that shelf. Talk to your customers about reuse. Have a look at your packaging. Can you switch to compostables where you can? And just really try and engage your consumers and experiment with different sustainability initiatives that suit you, your business and your customers.
Yeah, Michael, you said it well. We shouldn't be afraid to fail, right? Give something a try. Let your customers decide. Have a chat to them. And one last thing I do want to explore, because this is something we've done really well here at the Coffee Commune, is, and this is a tip for the listeners as well, is that you don't yourself need to be going out and spending all these crazy numbers on carbon footprints and all the rest of it if you don't have the funds to do, but choose your suppliers wisely. And that's something we've done. So We've switched to Mullaney Dairy. They've got a strong ESG strategy. They are one of the only milk companies in Queensland, if not the only milk company in Queensland, that is carbon neutral. So we partner with them. We work with Wild Beverages because they've got the similar fully recyclable bottles, labels, the whole lot. So we choose our suppliers very carefully who we work with that have a strong ESG and sustainability strategy in place, especially around the carbon footprint. So, and your take on that, obviously, because Huskee's a big believer in this, that should be everybody's strategy, shouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you've got brands that you trust that echo your principles, and for sure, I mean, it's one of the reasons why we became a B Corp certified company, because we wanted that third party verification, so that when it comes to selecting suppliers or partners, even within our own business, that says something about that business. And, it can be hard for cafes to go through, every single line item of everything that they have, to go, every packaging, all of their soft drinks and everything else, but just start. So when it comes to reassessing a supplier, making sure, like the example with the milk, that it's what it needs to be, and they've got sustainability at their core.
Yeah, great point. And don't forget, at the heart of it, they're not always right, but they are the most important part, and that's the customer. So don't be afraid. Have the conversation with your customers. Talk to them about reused cups. Talk to them about other sustainable and what they would like to see. Michael, thank you for your time, and congratulations to Huskee and the work you guys are doing in the space.
Thanks, Phil.
You've been listening to Phil DiBella and Michael McFarlane talking all things sustainability, especially around reused cups, which is a growing phenomenon here in Australia, but across the world. And of course, who doesn't want to do good for the environment along the way? It's all about contributing to community and being better tomorrow than today. So, Michael, thank you once again for being on our show.
Thanks, Phil.
So, just stay on the line, Michael. We want you on the line for a minute. But until next time. Until next time, you've been listening to Phil DiBella, and this is another episode of Been There, Done That, where we bring people in the industry that are experts in what they do to help you be better tomorrow than today.